Shocking betrayal from my aunt ruined my life, identity theft, medical sabotage, and lies exposed. I never thought the smell of old books would become the backdrop to the night my family tore itself apart. We weren't in a library. We were in my mother's living room, where the dusty shelves pressed against the walls carried more secrets than wisdom. The clock on the wall blinked 7:42 p.m. after work hours, the kind of time when people should be eating takeout pizza and decompressing from the day. Instead, my family staged an intervention. "You need to stop blaming Lisa," my mother's sister hissed across the coffee table, her voice shaking with rehearsed righteousness. "She only did what was best." I sat there clutching my grandmother's silver necklace, the only piece of her I had left, trying to keep my chest from collapsing in on itself. My palms were sweaty, my legs jittery. I'd just found out my Aunt Lisa had lied to my insurance company, deliberately misrepresenting my situation so they would deny coverage. Without it, I was left drowning in medical bills and treated symptoms and nights where panic attacks ripped me out of shallow sleep. How did I get here? It started when I trusted the wrong person. It started when I thought family meant protection. It started when I believed Lisa was just a quirky, outspoken aunt. When I was younger, Lisa always hovered around me like a self-appointed mentor. She'd bring me books to talk about her corporate job, brag about how she knew the system inside out. Back then, I admired her confidence. When I was 25, she helped me with paperwork after I got my first job with benefits. She seemed like the kind of person who knew how to make things happen. But 5 years later, when I turned 30, the admiration rotted. I was already in fragile health, juggling migraines, chronic fatigue, and a diagnosis my doctor said required consistent treatment. That's when I noticed odd discrepancies, letters I never saw, medical bills piling up in ways that didn't make sense, my coverage suddenly pending for weeks. I brushed it off at first. Stress, I told myself. Maybe I misfiled something. Maybe the insurance company was just incompetent. But the truth bled out in the cruelest way. My specialist appointment was cancelled without explanation. That's when I found out Lisa had called them, pretending to be me. "You don't need this treatment," she told the insurance rep. "She's exaggerating. She just wants the attention." I learned this from a whistleblower clerk who risked her job to send me a copy of the call notes. She scribbled a sticky note across the file: "Check who authorized changes, not you." I felt my stomach flip, bile rising in my throat. I confronted Lisa immediately. "You impersonated me?" I asked, shaking in the doorway of her kitchen. The smell of reheated pizza still lingered in the air, grease boxes stacked high on the counter. Lisa didn't flinch. She just smirked. "You don't know what's best for you, nor you waste money on nonsense. I saved you from more debt." More debt. As if my life wasn't already swallowed by it. My $15,000 wedding fund of money I had carefully saved for years was already gone, siphoned into endless out-of-pocket expenses. I had cancelled my wedding, broken off an engagement, and was watching every part of my future crumble. And she called it saving me. That night I couldn't sleep. My therapist would later say it was textbook narcissistic. Gaslighting so thick it twisted my perception of reality. I remember lying awake, hearing phantom voices, my mind replaying her smirk on a loop. Every sound in the house made me jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. The first true red flag, though, came a week later. My doctor, someone I had trusted for years, slipped and mentioned something Lisa had brought up about my file. My jaw dropped. "Wait," I said slowly. "Lisa shouldn't know anything about this." He froze. His silence was louder than any confession. That's when I realized the betrayal was deeper than I imagined. My aunt had allies. And I was alone. I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning of my family unraveling. The intervention, the humiliation, the whispers in the church congregation, all of it was waiting for me like landmines. But in that moment, clutching my grandmother's necklace so hard it dug into my skin, I felt the first crack in the illusion. Family wasn't safety. Family was a knife. Suspicion doesn't come like a lightning bolt, it creeps in like mold, spreading until everything smells rotten. After that first discovery about Lisa impersonating me, I couldn't unsee the cracks. Every phone call, every misplaced bill, every innocent family comment had a second meaning. When I turned 30, I told myself during sleepless nights, my whole life reset. Not in a joyful, milestone way people expect, but like someone had pressed delete on the life I'd been building. The first escalation happened at work. I was in the break room, microwaving leftover pasta, when a coworker asked casually, "Hey, are you still looking for a neurologist? I saw your aunt post online, so brave of her to share your story." I nearly dropped the plastic container. "My what?" He showed me his phone. There it was, a Facebook post under profile with my name, my picture, but not my words. Lisa had created an account pretending to be me, spinning narratives about how I was spiraling, how I was irresponsible with money, how I faked medical problems for sympathy. I tasted metal in my mouth, like my body was warning me I'd been poisoned. My chest tightened, the edges of my vision tunneling. Somehow, I smiled and excused myself, but in the bathroom I sat on the floor, knees to chest, hyperventilating until I couldn't feel my hands. Nightmares followed that week. In one dream, I was trapped in an endless hospital corridor. Every door had Lisa's voice behind it, whispering lies. I woke up gasping, clawing at my throat as if I'd swallowed smoke. I told my mother, Lee. "Mom, she's impersonating me online. People at work saw it." Lee bit her lip, torn between her loyalty to me and the gravitational pull Lisa always had over her. "Maybe she didn't mean harm, Nora. She thinks she's helping." "Helping?" I snapped. "By ruining my reputation, by telling strangers I'm crazy." The conversation ended with slam doors. I felt like I was losing not just my insurance and my privacy, but my mother too. The next red flag came in the most humiliating way. I was at church one Sunday trying to find normalcy when I overheard whispers. "That's her," someone murmured. "The one who lied about her dad." Another voice, "I heard she doesn't even know who her real father is," Lisa told us at Bible study. My knees buckled. I gripped the pew in front of me so hard my knuckles went white. Lisa hadn't just sabotaged my medical life, she was digging into family history, writing my very identity. That afternoon, I demanded answers. My mother finally confessed what Lisa had been spreading, that the man who raised me wasn't my biological father. That my entire heritage was a lie. I remember the taste of the cold pizza we'd ordered for dinner, dry crust sticking in my throat as I tried to swallow the truth. So I don't even know who I am, I whispered. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I wanted to protect you. I thought waiting was best. But Lisa hadn't waited. She'd weaponized it. The paranoia built. I started checking my email 20 times a day, scanning for strange logins. My hand shook when unknown numbers called. My therapist told me this is what sustained psychological does. It rewires your brain into survival mode. Still, I needed proof. That's when the whistleblower, the same clerk who had tipped me off about the insurance impersonation, called me again. You don't know the half of it, she said, her voice hushed. Your doctor, he's been feeding her information. Lisa's not doing this alone. I felt like the floor gave out beneath me. A doctor I trusted with my most private details had become a pipeline straight to Lisa. Every diagnosis, every vulnerability, she had access to all of it. That night I sat in my apartment surrounded by bills, empty takeout boxes, and unpaid notices. My grandmother's silver necklace lay on the table like an anchor to reality. I held it, whispering, I'm not crazy, even though half my mind wondered if maybe Lisa was right, maybe I was losing it. But then I thought of the sticky note from the whistleblower, check who authorized changes. Not you. That became my mantra. Proof existed. The lies weren't in my head. And deep down, I knew one thing for certain, if Lisa had crossed this many boundaries already, the biggest betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. The biggest betrayals don't come with explosions, they creep up until you realize your entire life is a stage play and you were the only one who didn't know the script. The moment of discovery came on October 12th, 2022. I'll never forget the date because that was the day my bank called. The representative's tone was polite but sharp, the way someone speaks when they suspect fraud. Ines, Hart, we've noticed unusual withdrawals, several transfers to a PayPal account under the name L. Dawson. Do you authorize these? My stomach sank. Dawson was Lisa's maiden name. The total $8,437. Money scraped from my savings, meant for medical copies and groceries. When the rep mentioned it had been happening for months, my vision blurred. I hung up and screamed until my throat tore raw. That same evening, the whistleblower clerk called me again. She sounded nervous, like she was finally telling me something that could end her career. You need to know Lisa didn't just impersonate you with insurance. She has access to your entire file. Your doctor had been giving her updates directly. He said it was for family oversight, but the truth is she pressured him. I sat frozen in my car in the hospital parking lot, the smell of old coffee filling the air. My hands trembled so hard I couldn't turn the ignition. My own physician, someone who had looked me in the eyes, sworn confidentiality, was a traitor. The clerk whispered, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. You deserve to know. That's when the full scope clicked. Lisa didn't just want to control my finances, she wanted to own my identity. She had my medical history, my personal data, even my passwords to impersonated calls. She was rewriting my life in her image. The fallout was instant. I confronted my doctor in his office, voice shaking. How could you give her my private information? Do you realize what you've done? He paled, stumbling for words. Lisa said she was helping manage your case. She said you were unstable. Unstable? My laugh came out hysterical, jagged. Do you know what this has done to me? I have panic attacks so bad I can't breathe. I don't trust my own memory anymore, and you fed her the ammo. His silence was confirmation. I stormed out, the hospital stale smell making me gag. The psychological toll deepened. Nights became torture chambers. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., heart racing, convinced someone was in my apartment. I'd check locks 3, 4, 5 times before bed. My therapist explained, this is hypervigilance, Nora. Trauma rewires your brain to expect betrayal around every corner. She was right. I couldn't relax at work. Strangers' laughter on the street made me wonder if they knew Lisa's stories about me. At the grocery store, I caught people staring too long. Was it paranoia or were they really whispering? At church, I got my answer. One Sunday, a woman I'd grown up with stopped me in the foyer. Her eyes were cold. People talk, Nora. Lisa says you drain your fiancé's savings, that you fake your symptoms to get attention. The sting of betrayal from someone I once called auntie in Sunday school was unbearable. I left mid-sermon, head bowed, the congregation's whispers chasing me out like wolves. That was the day the church turned their backs on my family. My mother later admitted she overheard someone say we were a stain on the community. But the most devastating revelation wasn't the gossip or even the financial sabotage. It was when I sat with my mother, Lee, days later, begging for truth. Is it true? Is Dad not my real father? My voice cracked raw. Lee's silence was worse than denial. Then, finally, she nodded. Yes, Lisa knew. She's been dangling it over me for years. It felt like my chest collapsed inward. The woman who ruined my insurance had also shattered my identity. I wasn't who I thought I was. My heritage, my roots, even the last name I carried, and none of it was certain anymore. I whispered, she took everything, my health, my money, my reputation, and now me. My mother reached for me, tears in her eyes, but I pulled away. I wasn't ready. At 30 years old, I thought betrayal had limits. But Lisa taught me betrayal was a bottomless pit. Every time I thought I'd hit the floor, it turned out to be a false bottom. And the most dangerous part? She wasn't finished. I never planned for confrontation. I thought I'd gather evidence, hire a lawyer, maybe cut ties quietly. But life has a way of forcing your hand. And for me, it happened during a job interview. It was June 14, 2023, 4:15 p.m. I had scheduled an interview for a management position at a nonprofit I admired. My nerves were taut, but nothing compared to the storm inside me. I wore my grandmother's silver necklace under my blouse for comfort, a talisman against everything Lisa had stolen. I walked into the office, the faint smell of sanitizer and paper filling the room. Across from me sat the hiring manager, a woman named Clara, mid-40s, warm but direct. We exchanged pleasantries. I settled into the chair, hands gripping the armrests. Then Clara hesitated, flipping through a folder labeled with my name. Her brow furrowed. MS, Hart, can you explain this? She slid a printout across the table. I read the first line and felt my throat seize. Nora Hart is a manipulative, responsible individual who exaggerates health problems for attention. She has falsified financial documents and deceived employers. The blood drained from my face. It wasn't a rumor this time. Someone had impersonated me on LinkedIn, on emails, on official correspondence. Lisa had done it for years. I could feel my chest tighten, my pulse hammering against my skull. I didn't send this, I stammered, voice barely audible. Clara's eyes widened. These emails were all traced to your profile, and yet your references say otherwise. We were confused. Then the dam broke. I slammed my hand on the table. Lisa, my aunt, she impersonated me. She has my medical records. She stole my money, and she's been feeding lies about me for years. The room went silent. Clara leaned back, disbelief etched across her face. That is impossible. No, I said, standing now, shaking with adrenaline and fury. It's very real, and you have the proof here. I've got witness statements, emails, bank records, everything. She left me with nothing, but I'm not letting her destroy me anymore. I could see Clara digesting the truth. Her phone buzzed, and I realized she was calling the HR department to confirm my claims. I sat down, chest heaving, but something in me shifted. This wasn't just a professional victory, it was my first real taste of control since Lisa began dismantling my life. After the interview, the fallout was immediate. The nonprofit froze the hiring process to investigate. I received supportive emails from colleagues who had once doubted me. And for the first time in years, my voice carried weight. But the personal revelation was more jarring. Days later, I discovered the full extent of my family's deception. DNA tests revealed that my biological father was not who I had been told. He was a distant cousin, a man my grandmother had kept secret to protect the family's reputation. Lisa had known all along. My identity, my history, my understanding of myself, it had all been a lie. I sat in my apartment, take out pizza and touch beside me, staring at the ceiling. My grandmother's necklace felt heavy around my neck, a reminder of both loss and resilience. I realized then that exposure alone wasn't enough. I had to rebuild myself from the rubble Lisa had created. Even the church congregation, which had turned their backs, began to whisper apologies, unsure how to confront their role in the gossip and judgment. Friends I thought were lost reached out, saying they'd suspected something was off and were relieved I was finally uncovering the truth. But the biggest lesson hit hard. Betrayal can come from the people you love most. The women I trusted, the people I considered family, they had turned my life into a labyrinth of lies. My therapist explained it clearly. Nora, this is classic narcissistic. It's calculated, it's repetitive, and it rewires your brain. What you're feeling, anger, grief, distrust, it's all a response to being systematically dismantled. I realized that my journey was far from over. Confrontation didn't erase trauma, but it marked the turning point. I had taken back the narrative, reclaimed the truth, and faced the lies head on. And though Lisa had tried to destroy everything I was, I discovered a dangerous kind of clarity. Knowing your abuser and facing them gives you a power they can't take. As I left the office that day, the sun hitting my face felt like a promise. I still had nightmares. I still had panic attacks. But for the first time, I felt the faintest hint of hope, the knowledge that I could survive this, that I could rebuild. Even after confronting Lisa and exposing her impersonation, the aftermath felt like drowning in slow motion. My apartment, once a place of fleeting comfort, became a prison of bills, letters, and digital evidence I had to comb through every day. The smell of takeout pizza lingered in the corner from nights I couldn't stomach cooking. My grandmother's silver necklace rested on the counter, almost mocking me with its quiet, heavy reminder of the family I had lost. The social fallout was devastating. At work, whispers followed me down hallways. Some colleagues avoided eye contact, others questioned my credibility behind closed doors. Friends who hadn't fully understood the manipulation recoiled when I tried to explain. Are you sure you're not overreacting? Someone asked once, and I almost laughed through tears. I couldn't believe that after all the proof, people still doubted me. Church was worse. I walked in one Sunday hoping for solace. Instead, the whispers intensified. Did you hear about Nora? I wouldn't trust her story. The congregation that had once embraced my family turned their backs. I felt every stare like a physical blow. I left mid-sermon, chest tight, tears blurring the stained glass sunlight streaming through the windows. At home, the panic attacks intensified. I'd wake at 2 a.m., heart hammering, convinced someone was in the apartment. Every knock, every creak of the floorboard sent me spiraling. Nights were haunted by nightmares of Lisa whispering lies, showing my face on screens, taking everything I owned. I would wake gasping, cold sweat soaking my pajamas, holding my grandmother's necklace as if it could shield me from the past. Therapy became my lifeline. My therapist, Dr. Keller, told me bluntly, the manipulation, the impersonation, the financial sabotage, they are all patterns designed to destabilize you. Your nightmares, panic attacks, and trust issues aren't signs of weakness, they are signs of trauma. We started weekly sessions, meticulously unpacking the years of manipulation. We created safety plans for work, analyzed every instance of deception, and slowly worked to reclaim my sense of self. Each session was exhausting, yet it was the first time I felt truly seen. Then there was the betrayal by my doctor. He had handed over my private medical information to Lisa under the guise of family oversight. Knowing this, I had to change physicians, review all records, and navigate a system that had failed me repeatedly. Every step reminded me of how many people had turned their backs, whether out of fear, complicity, or ignorance. The financial consequences were staggering. My $15,000 wedding fund was gone, drained by unauthorized withdrawals and medical bills Lisa had orchestrated. I had to postpone my wedding indefinitely, face creditors, and rebuild my savings from scratch. Every dollar I counted was a reminder of what I had lost. Even my personal relationships suffered. I couldn't trust anyone fully: friends, family, romantic partners. The lies had reprogrammed my mind to suspect ulterior motives behind every gesture of kindness. Every time someone complimented me or offered help, a shadow of doubt crept in. Yet amidst the rock-bottom despair, tiny sparks of resilience flickered. A former coworker reached out, confirming that Lisa had emailed them using my identity. The whistleblower clip continued sending updates, giving me proof that I wasn't imagining things. And slowly, I began to accept that rebuilding would be a marathon, not a sprint. One night, lying on my couch, staring at the ceiling, I whispered to myself, I may have nothing that she wanted to steal, but I still have me, and I'll take that back, piece by piece. It was the first real moment of clarity since this nightmare began. Rock bottom wasn't just a spirit, it was a turning point. From this place, I could begin to reclaim my identity, my reputation, and my sense of safety. Recovery didn't happen overnight. For months, I waded through therapy sessions, financial audits, and the wreckage of friendships and family ties. But for the first time since Lisa's deception began, I felt the faint pulse of control. The nightmares didn't vanish immediately, and panic attacks still came uninvited, but I started recognizing them as symptoms, evidence of trauma, not proof of personal failure. I began small. I called a financial advisor and created a new budget, slowly reclaiming what little stability I could. The $15,000 wedding fund was gone, but I started a new savings account with an automatic deposit each month. Seeing the balance grow even in increments of $50 felt like a personal victory. Therapy became the anchor. Dr. Keller guided me through cognitive exercises to retrain my brain, grounding techniques to stop panic spirals, and journaling prompts that helped me reconstruct my sense of identity. We unpacked every lie Lisa had told, every document she had forged, every rumor she had spread. Writing it down made it tangible, no longer a swirling fog in my mind. I'm starting to remember who I am, I said to Dr. Keller one evening, holding my grandmother's silver necklace, now polished and worn daily. Not the person she made me out to be, me. I also reached out to others who had been victimized. Online support groups introduced me to survivors who understood my journey, not just the betrayal, but the slow erosion of trust, the social isolation, the emotional manipulation. Hearing their stories, sharing mine, I felt less alone. We became a network, sharing resources, advice, and encouragement. I even co-hosted a small virtual workshop on spotting medical and identity, empowering others to take action before they were devastated like I was. Legally, I took steps to protect myself. The whistleblower clerk helped me compile proof of Lisa's impersonation, her financial fraud, and her abuse of my medical records. I submitted a formal complaint to the licensing board of my doctor and filed police reports. The investigation is ongoing, but just taking those steps made me feel seen and validated. Emotionally, I started rebuilding relationships cautiously. I reconciled with a few friends who had misunderstood the situation, explaining the depth of Lisa's deception. My mother, Lee, and I began attending joint therapy, trying to repair the fractured bond while holding boundaries around Lisa. I realized that trust is earned, not assumed, and that self-preservation is not betrayal. Gradually, I reclaimed simple pleasures. I cooked meals for myself, savoring flavors without the cloud of stress: cheesy baked pasta, crisp takeout pizza, and fresh fruit. I lingered in bookstores again, letting the smell of old pages remind me that knowledge and curiosity are mine, untainted. Then came the most unexpected healing, embracing my identity and heritage. With Lisa's lies finally exposed, I delved into genealogical records, piecing together my family history and understanding my true roots. I realized the story of who I am was not defined by deceit, it was built from resilience, self-discovery, and the people who truly cared about me. I took concrete steps to build a life unshakable by manipulation. I secured a new job with colleagues who valued integrity. I organized my finances, created legal protections against identity theft, and strengthened my mental health through ongoing therapy. I even started mentoring younger women who had been victims of emotional and financial abuse, sharing strategies for reclaiming agency. The final step was the most empowering. I built a network of survivors who understood my journey, a community bound by shared experience and mutual support. We celebrate victories, share coping strategies, and hold each other accountable. I'm no longer alone in my trauma. I'm surrounded by people who validate and protect one another. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see strength, not vulnerability. I carry my grandmother's silver necklace as a symbol of continuity and resilience. My life isn't perfect and the scars remain, but they no longer define me. I'm Nora Hull, determined and free from the shadow of betrayal. And the most important lesson I've learned, even when someone steals everything from you, your money, your health, your identity, you can rebuild. Piece by piece, truth by truth, and heart by heart. I survived Lisa. And in doing so, I finally found myself.